Are you pushing yourself because you're trying to keep up with that older version of yourself? Well, that's a quick way to burn out the version of you that you're actually wanting to grow. Talking about lots of versions here, right? But a lot of people get stuck because they're measuring progress against who they used to be, not where they're at right now. Have you ever done that back in the good old days and you start going through all those stories? Maybe you used to be an athlete. Maybe workouts just used to come easy and used to hit the gym with all your buddies. Or maybe it was you just had more time and more energy and fewer responsibilities. That's fine. But the version of you, it served its purpose when life was happening. But today's different. We go through different chapters of life, and here you are. I mean, if your training doesn't really reflect your real life right now, it doesn't become sustainable. You get started, and then something's inconvenient, or you tweak something, or possibly injure something. So before we get into all this stuff today, I do want you to head over to talktoperry.com, because if you are a serious podcast listener and you're ready to feel better and you want to recharge, I want to help you. And we do that in 15 minutes. I'll help you create a clear and doable plan so that you can get your energy back, reach all of your goals, and really keep your focus locked in. That's over at talktoperry.com. I'm dropping that in the lower third if you're catching it on video here. If you're listening on audio, talktoperry.com is pretty easy to remember, right? So let's just call this out the way it is. I mean, your life, it used to look different than what you're used to, right? Your energy maybe is stretched across responsibilities like family, work, stress, maybe even health challenges. Your recovery isn't the same, your sleep isn't the same, and maybe, just maybe, your motivation is less about performance and it's more about just showing up for yourself in the long term. I was working out with Tony Horton the other day. He said something that really, it kind of hit me, and it really sparked the idea of this podcast. He was talking about, we were doing some stretching and warming up sort of things. And he was talking about, hey, here you are back in the good old days. You were all that. You're playing softball. Now, you might not have played softball, but he's talking about you're playing softball. You were really all that back in the day. And then you're like, hey, I don't need to warm up. I don't need to stretch. I've got this. You go and hit a grounder. You start running to first, and then bam, bam, both hamstrings go out. And I was like, oh my gosh, there's a lot of us that we just go through these good old day memories, think we want to get back to that, and think what we did back then is going to get us forward back to that ideal, healthy, fit self that we want to be in. And that's not the case. And we start over and we fail, or, it's really not even fail. It's really growth, because it's just learning about, you're trying to follow an old model and it's obsolete, where it's, if you were doing high intensity workouts 6 days a week, chasing maybe extreme workouts, and it doesn't match your ideal demands right now, what can you do instead is what you may want to ask yourself. Not to let yourself off the hook and say, well, I can't do any of that now, because I was in that position as well. I had let myself drift off course for many, many years. Here I was, getting to the ripe old age of 39, but this is where I was at. I knew that I was going to be turning 40 and thinking, you know what? I've drifted so far off course. I haven't worked out in about 10 years. It's probably too late in life for me to even get started. I mean, I'm out of shape, overweight, overwhelmed, overworked, and I can't do this. But it started shifting the model, and that's what you need to do, is shift the model. And here's a way to think about it, to where it's like a smart, grounded way. So think of it this way. This is the way that I approached it, because I realized I was in that start-stop cycle quite a bit over that decade of time. I'd get frustrated. I'd start something. I'd buy some equipment or gadget or whatever. And I was in the mindset of, don't tell me what to do. I don't need a trainer. I don't need a gym. I know what to do already. I just need to do it. And it wouldn't last long. So I kind of went through a few phases here. One was a rebuilding phase, where I'm taking a look at where am I trying to find a crack in the flaw to get myself out of exercise. My energy is drained, life is hectic, I've been inconsistent, and I really realized I needed to focus on stability. I needed to focus on consistency. I needed to focus on habits. And they weren't habits that I had been doing, so I was kind of resistant to them. And I was always trying to find a reason or excuse to get out of it. So I realized it wasn't necessarily, oh, the workouts are too hard or I'm too out of shape. The issue was my mindset of actually just getting started. Because once I got started, even though it was humbling and I'd be frustrated that I let myself go for so long, I started working on it. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to take my time, rebuild. I have to trust that even though I can only do 1 or 2 push-ups today, that in a few weeks, staying consistent and getting these habits and showing up, those 2 might turn into 5 or 6 or even more. And while I don't necessarily need to return back to the glory days, I just need to turn up to today and do what I could. So I'm focusing on mobility. I'm focusing on form. I'm focusing on the foundational moves that makes everything work. And while I wanted the weight loss sort of thing, so if I were in this point of view, now it's 23 years later, if I was starting today, that's where I'd be in this chapter of life. I'm like less on the weight loss thing and less on pushing so hard and just reconnecting with what my body can do and move, and just trusting that things will move along the way and I'll have mobility. I'll have the momentum. I'll build trust in myself. And speaking of momentum, that's where I went next, because then I started getting this rhythm. And I think this is where a lot of times people get stuck. They might get some weight loss. They might get some strength. They might get some results. And then they kind of get cocky. They kind of let their foot off the gas. I know that happened to me back at the beginning. And I realized, oh my gosh, I'm going back to old habits. And I don't want to go there. I want a lifelong journey of health, healthy habits, feeling great. I liked the results that I was having. So I kept going. And I started creating this rhythm. So I wasn't in that cycle of starting over again. And I wasn't necessarily getting into training aggressively, not yet. And if I were approaching it right now from this chapter, I would be very, very conscious of what aggressive workouts or advanced workouts would look for me, where I was focusing. Now I'd be focusing more on mobility over trying to just get jacked and get ripped, So these can mean anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes. That's where I started. A weekly plan that focuses around your actual life and really listening to your body so that and when I say listening to your body to where it's not forcing it and you're showing up consistently, also paying attention to the mind chatter that's trying to talk you into putting things off, delaying, promising that you'll make up for it tomorrow. You don't have to show up today. Remember really calling yourself out on those things and saying, you know what, even though I don't want to and I don't feel like it, I'm going to still show up. That's really building trust in yourself. And you can do that. You don't even have to go to the good old days to reflect on that one. You can call yourself out on it and say, I'm showing up, because that's really where the progress lives. Not because that you've got a system or a structure, but you're just building those habits that's not overwhelming for yourself. And then from there, constantly elevating, whatever that means for you. You've got your energy, you've got consistency, you've got this desire to push for a little bit more. You might even try new formats. I know over the years, I have challenged myself in many different ways. I used to dismiss yoga. And I would tell myself I didn't like it, even though I really didn't give it a shot, until I gave it a shot. And I gave it a full, I think it was 90 days, where I added yoga in once a week. And I realized it gave me better mobility, better momentum. I felt calmer, and it made all my other workouts even much better. So I've tried other things along the way. Some I've learned that they're not for me. I don't plan on doing bar workouts, even though I've tried some. But other mobility ones, range of motion, those things that really challenge the body, kind of like primal movement sort of things. I've done those. Spinning, those sort of things. Where performance isn't necessarily, isn't my goal. I'm not going to try and sign up for a sports team or anything like that. I just wanted to prove that I could expand on what my current version is to what I can handle. And I'm not trying to compare myself to the past. So when you build your entire approach about that, you don't need to look back on anything. You just need to support who you are right now so that your goals match your lifestyle. And your body isn't in this constant fight with your mindset. That's where I think the awareness of your self-talk is also important. So you can go deeper for a second here. Seasons, they change. Stress levels change. Sleep patterns change. Work demands change. Even hormonal cycles. And, if your training model, it doesn't flex and flow with the life that you're wanting to, with the life that you're living and the life that you're wanting to go toward, you fall into this start and stop pattern every time. I've coached and mentored so many people, and some choose to stay in that start and stop cycle, even though they say they're not going to. This time's going to be different. They haven't shifted their mindset. They haven't shifted their thinking. They haven't shifted toward just the habits and the chapter of life they're in now. They're reflecting back to the good old days. I can hear it in their talk. I can just see it in their habits. So if you build it around your current life, not your, I think maybe about your ideal life, but not built upon the past, you stay in motion no matter what. And that can really just become that part of your identity. This is just who I am, right? And if you are feeling worn down, it's not about doing more. It's really about recharging smarter. That's why I say get over to talktoperry.com. We'll be talking about what's draining you, where your goals are now. I'll help you create that plan that actually works with your lifestyle. I'll walk you through my Power of 5 strategy, and we do that just in 15 minutes. And hey, you're going to leave knowing exactly where to focus and how to get your energy back and really make those goals happen without burning out. That's over at talktoperry.com. Simple, quick, life-changing. So there's nothing wrong with who you were, but that version already did its job. Now it's just time to be radically honest with yourself with what matters most, how you feel, how you function, and how you show up today. Just do today. Adopt that mantra. I'm giving it to you absolutely free. Train for life, the life you live now, and that's where your strength really, really grows. So just know you can choose to use your power, take control, use these tips, or you can let the excuses, justifications, the mind chatter, the excuses, the false promises control you and drain your power. It really boils down to deciding and committing and really taking action on yourself and your goals and choosing to figure out new ways, looking at possibilities, learning and growing, and keep moving forward. You've got this, my friend. I'd love to hear your top takeaway from today. Drop those down in the comments. You absolutely rock, my friend. And as always, remember, it's never too late. We'll see you next week. That's another Power Blast podcast in the books. Thanks so much for tuning in. And remember, when you are ready to recharge your battery, make sure you go to talktoperry.com. That's talktoperry.com. That's Perry. And I want to listen. I want to hear, what's going on. I want to help you in that 15-minute call to recharge your battery and reclaim your power so that you're off and running and creating massive momentum toward your dream. Also, every day, I am delivering more motivation, support, tips, and strategies inside my free community with amazing people like yourself. And we are conquering the mindset and the fitness I do 52 weeks of free training in there. Plus, I coach and I mentor people, as well as give you access to tons of resources and guides. It's called my Upside Down Fitness community because we work on a lot of mindset stuff, the inside stuff, and we're a fun group of people striving to make healthier habits in this awesome chapter of life. So make sure you get in there. I promise you'll absolutely love it. Just head over to upsidedownfit.com and you can get into the group. And hey, you would be an awesome friend if you get over to iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcast and leave an honest rating and review for the Power Blast podcast. It helps awesome people like you find the show even faster, and that's who I'm looking for, awesome people like you. That's all I have for this week, my friend, and just to let you know, you absolutely rock. That's all I have for this week. I'll see you on the next Power Blast podcast, and always remember, it's never too late. We'll see you next week.